get like 5 new pair just so I have them in my purse and my desk, just in case. But it's like, it happened from one day to the next, I can't see. So, it reminds me of a Twilight Zone, what?
I'm worse. I did that once and I was wearing mine. And I was like, where are my glasses? And I had them on. I was like,
Here, can you remove your... it reminds me of a Twilight Zone episode where the gentleman just wants peace and quiet and all he wants to do is read. And so it's kind of like the end of the world or something. I don't know if I'm mixing episodes, probably. But anyway, it's like the end, and he finally gets peace and quiet, and he's like sitting amongst all his books, and he puts on his glasses, and then they break. That's the end of the episode. How fucked up is that? I mean, you finally, quote unquote, finally, and that's one of the things with anxiety. One of the things that you want to do with addicts is you want to keep them in the present moment. People that tend to suffer from anxiety are not living in the present moment. They tend to be living in the past, or they tend to be living in the future. Months ago, I talked about this. When we live in the past or in the future, we're being ruled by ego. Does anyone know why, or remember if you were in that class? Do you remember why I said that you're being ruled by ego if you're living in the past or the future?
because it's about you, right?
Okay, it's about what you had,
Right.
or what you want to have.
Yeah.
And so we cannot be at peace. We're only at peace in the present. And so past and future is anxiety producing. So very, very common when you have clients, especially addicts who self-medicate, because that's what the problem tends to be. It's a vicious cycle. In the problem of anxiety with addiction, there is an erroneous belief. We need to know that our beliefs are erroneous. I need you to put this on a big ass piece of paper. I need you to tattoo this on your notebook, on your forehead, on your toe, somewhere. Beliefs are erroneous. They're bullshit. They're just beliefs. What you are trying to do in therapy, number one thing, is find the erroneous belief. What does the client believe about themselves, about their partner, about their job, about their religion, about whatever that is erroneous? If you can uncover and discover that, you've got it. You pull on that. And today we're going to do a little moving around of emotions where we're going to discover the erroneous beliefs. And so when you have addicts, when you have clients that are persistently anxious, like in generalized anxiety disorder, what you're going to find is that they're consistently living in a past or a future. So I asked her, when did this start? That's past. When did it start? It had to start in the past. Because it didn't start at this moment. Even if it was the moment before, even if it was an hour ago, even if it was 13 years ago. So she is living something in the past because she's having this anxiety about her paranoia and inability to sleep. So asking when did something start is a really relevant question. Write that down. Because one of the main things that counseling students have is asking questions. They never know what questions to ask. It's like, what question do I ask? Is that an appropriate question? Paula was having that issue the other day. That is the thing. That's why I say, ask a question that you think you know the answer to. Have a hypothesis. Ask a question that has some relevance. Why are you asking the question? What I mean by why are you asking the question is, what is your hypothesis behind that question? Why are you asking it? What educated guess are you making? I made 2 guesses. That her aunt was either her mother as a protector, because she used the word I, and the I in my symbology is protection. So I used my own it had to do with religion because the eye symbolizes, and if anybody has a dollar, take out a dollar. What's on the back of the dollar?
In God we trust.
In God we trust, and a big fat eye on top of the pyramid. There is a religious symbology there. Whether you're a Freemason like the creators of this country, whether you're un santero, or whether you're a Jehovah's Witness. The eye has a symbolism. It's what we see. Look at me. I'm blind all of a sudden. Do you think it's a coincidence that my life is falling apart and all of a sudden I'm blind from one day to the other? What don't I want to see, people? I am tired of seeing that I walk outside of my house and I have a car crash, that someone hit and run my car. That was the latest. Can you believe that? That was the latest thing. Yesterday, my dog got lost. If that dog, I found him, thank God. What else do I not want to see? I can't see anymore. I cannot handle, my psyche cannot handle one more fucking thing. I'm going to lose my shit. So I've gone blind, so to speak. These are not coincidences. If I were my client and I walked in and said, I've gone blind in the last couple days, I would ask, the first question I would say, what do you want to see? To me, that seems like the most logical question, because I have a hypothesis that the eye is a vision. I think everyone would agree, the organ of vision. And you would say, what don't you want to see?
Yeah.
So with her, it's, what have you seen that maybe you want to unsee? Because she used the word I. She used the word watching, paranoia. Paranoia tends to stem. Someone Google paranoid disorder, personality disorder, paranoia. I don't know the exact terminology. What is it?
PPD.
Okay, Google that and share with me the symptoms. And I was going to bring the DSM today. I have a simple version and there's a full one downstairs.
I was actually reading about BPD, borderline personality
Okay.
disorder, and which I've considered myself to be like that. And one of the things I said that people with that, with BPD tend to, their anxiety just doesn't stay, oh, you have a little anxiety, but it turns into paranoia. And then I read about BPD and how
Okay.
all that stuff.
So she already started
I'm trying to.
paranoid personality disorder.
I'm already.
So let's
I
read
know.
the criteria. Now, what is an educated guess? People.
Educated
Science, third grade, 101 here.
Educated for what? I'm sorry.
What is an educated guess?
Like a theory.
Something that
It's
you
a
study?
theory, it's a hypothesis. You're guessing, but what are you basing it on?
What you study? Right?
What you're studying. What theories have you studied?
The mother-child triad.
Well,
Well,
that's
yeah.
my theory, so yes, you could use that. I use symbology, that's where I went to the eye immediately. I went to protection because I went immediately to my theory of needs. But you've studied these theories. I started the addictions class with theories. We've gone through some of them. Yesterday I mentioned a disease model. That's a theory of addiction. Today we're talking about a general anxiety disorder. That's a theory with addiction. Oftentimes 20% of people with generalized anxiety disorder have addictions. What they expect is the worst. They tend to have insomnia. They have an inability to relax. They have increased stress, muscle tension, restlessness. Raise your hand if you have these things. Nausea, headaches, trembling, damn. Right? Fucked.
We're done.
We're done. Now, what we will discover with anxiety disorders, that you have to have this for a 6-month bout or more. Can you Google? Because I don't want to misquote. I don't know these things by heart. I'm studying for my test. This is why I'm going to fail. Because I'm a moron. Google generalized anxiety disorder. What's on the board? and I want you to read to me, I just read the symptoms. And tell me how long clients need to have the symptoms for. Pedro Zulili, have you had these symptoms for 6 months or more? Consistently? Okay, well, let's see what the actual definition is. Usually, most of these disorders are you have an ongoing thing for 6 months or more. I definitely have, that's why I'm on medication. And it's a state of what's the word I'm looking for? It's situational. It's situational for what I'm going through. Do you know offhand, because I can't remember, generalized anxiety disorder, is it 6 months or more where you have to have the symptoms consistently?
I think it's less than that.
Oh, okay, she's Googling, because I can't remember. I should know this because I'm taking my test in a few weeks. I can't remember.
Well, it says that 3.1% of U.S. population are women.
Okay, but when it comes to the symptoms, does it say? Here, let me, I was gonna bring my book, but I left a little. This is the stuff we need to know, hence that I should know it. Okay.
It doesn't say.
DSM criteria for generalized anxiety disorder.
It doesn't say.
Okay, DSM criteria.
Yeah, there you go.
Symptoms. So I read a lot of the symptoms. Presence of excessive anxiety and worry about a variety of topics, events, or activities. Check this if you have it. Worry. Worry, this is very important, especially with addicts. It has to do with control. And someone like you that has so many moving parts, especially with time management issue, control is an issue. Okay? Anxiety and worry are accompanied with at least 3 of the following physical or cognitive symptoms. Edginess or restlessness, me. Tiring easily, me. Impaired concentration, the mind goes blank, me. Look at this, I'm like losing my mind. Irritability, me. Increased muscle aches and soreness, me.
And you're,
So see there.
you also went through treatment for cancer, so there's variables.
True.
So-
Yes, but I definitely have this. Difficulty sleeping. So, just to use Nellis's thing, you have a client, they come in, and the main thing that she's saying is she can't sleep. What is the first thing that a therapist does when the client comes in with a symptom? Where are you getting your hypothesis from? They have a symptom. You're going to write down the symptom, and you're going to list on your paper or in your head everything that you know about that symptom that links to a disorder to see if they are diagnosable. First of all, you're probably going to have to diagnose something because of insurance. So you're going to have to find something in the diagnosis book, okay? This is where you start developing a hypothesis. Okay, this is one way. I used a word that the client gave me, and I went that way. Because that's the way that I work. I'm more Jungian. I'm more, depth psychology, so I go more in the symbology. But if you're very classical in terms of, mental health counseling, diagnosis-oriented, this is what you're going to do. How are you feeling? Okay.
It doesn't say though. Everywhere where I looked, it doesn't say.
Because I didn't tell you to look up DSM, and I should have said that. Then it goes to describe it. Excessive worry means worrying even when there is no specific threat present. Does she have a specific threat?
If you believe in.
But she didn't say that she's got woo-woos
Oh well, no.
in her underneath her bed. This is me grasping and pulling out the story and finding the ambiguity.
Did she say she couldn't sleep?
Yeah,
She said she didn't sleep. The first thing she said when she walked in, or when I started talking to her, she couldn't sleep. She feels paranoid. That was a word.
Right.
So the minute you hear paranoid and sleep, you're gonna go personal paranoid disorder. I don't know offhand these things. This is what I'm studying. I haven't memorized these things yet. And this is also not the way that I work. Normally, that's another reason why. Okay. Nausea, sweating, diarrhea. I don't have those. I do have the sweating, but I'm also premenopausal. Anxiety, worry, associated symptoms make it hard to carry out day-to-day relationships and responsibilities. Okay. Let's see if it says how long.
Could it be tied down with depression? I'm sorry.
It absolutely can be tied down. 20% about that have a depression as well. That's called comorbidity, when you have two existing disorders together. Comorbidity. I'm just seeing if it says how long you need to have them.
I just found
It
that
says
out.
mood disorders, eating disorders, cognitive disorders, all of these can be found together.
What did, before it was
I
called
can't find-
comorbidity, it was called something else. And,
Differential diagnosis?
yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. And now they changed it.
Yeah, they keep changing it on me. I can't find how
Exactly,
long.
that's what I'm saying. It
doesn't
says
say.
for a prolonged
Okay,
period
so
of time.
maybe-
that's
Severe
it, yeah.
anxiety.
Maria
that
would
could be
know.
it.
We
Yeah.
can ask Maria. Oh, and this has to do with the limbic system. Who remembers our brain?
Yeah.
And this is actually what I came in wanting to talk about today, but I'm glad it worked out this way. Who remembers our 3 levels of our brain?
No, I'm thinking of the.
Where's the emotions? Anyone remember the emotions?
Isn't it the final one? Or
No, that's the neocortex, and that's
Oh,
more of
sorry.
the intellect. The fight or flight, is the reptilian, and the emotions is the limbic. The limbic part of the brain that also is amygdala has to do with the fear response and has to do with emotions. This is the part of the brain that is affected. This is where addicts drink or smoke or gamble, and they have a persistent vicious cycle because they're trying to appease that fear or that worry or that depression or that stress. And then they self-medicate. Even if you are not an addict, it is my belief that we're all addicts in some way or another, even though we're not addicted or addictive personality. You could be addicted. Who said adrenaline in your case study the other day? That could have been a tendency to be addictive. And she does like variety, so we know that she's got traits. I'm a believer that we all have traits of some addict in some way. I'm not an addictive person, but I have traits towards food. That's my drug of choice, so to speak. I believe that everyone has, because I believe that everybody has a poor coping skill. It's somewhere you learn a poor coping skill. So for me, talking loud, yelling, eating, those are my poor coping skills. So I see that as a form of addiction. And I'm just using that word very loosely, not DSM defined, okay?
you sure it's not your Cuban side?
It could be, and I've tried blaming it on that, but then I'm so much louder than all the other Cubans in my family, other than my dad, that it's like if I was at least surrounded with my dad's side of the family that I do believe are like louder Cubans like me, then I would have maybe found my niche. But because in my family of 5, I'm the loudest with my dad, it's hard to blame it on them. So what's super important to know is anxiety is simply an underlying disease. When feelings become excessive, anxiety is an indicator of an underlying disease when, and this is the thing, feelings, and we're going to do this today, we're going to work with our feelings, our emotions. become excessive, all-consuming, and interfere with daily living. Do you remember on Tuesday that we were talking and I said, does this interfere with your daily life? I was talking about the person that was talking to myself and Mr. Pachi, and I said, does this interfere with your life? If something doesn't necessarily interfere with someone's life, then it isn't necessarily an issue. And you might find resistance, third stage in motivational interviewing. We might find resistance and we don't need to necessarily go there, okay? But if it is something that is interfering, is this interfering in your life? Okay. And we can see she has so much emotion. She was crying intensely. You can't just ignore when a client is crying like that. You need to start seeing what it's linked to. So there has to be something more than just the aunt's death. Okay, she could obviously be still in how many months has it been? Oh my God,
So it's
okay,
recent.
super
It's
recent.
recent.
Okay, so 6 weeks since a very loved one, very close to her.
Like I said, I became even closer to her when she got diagnosed, and I mean, at the time that she got first to the hospital and they did all the tests and it came out positive, that's the same time that I wasn't going to school and I quit my job, so I was staying there overnight with her, weeks at a time. So we
So
became
you got
super
very close. This became a big thing. Did you notice during the time that you took care of her that your beliefs, that you were being faced with death, that maybe your beliefs had already started to change? Or was it at that moment when she died?
I think it was at the moment that she died, because from the moment that she got diagnosed to the last minute, she always thought she was gonna get cured. She didn't know how serious it was. I did. I was
Because
the
you guys
one-
kept it from her?
She, every time that we'll go to a hospital, it will be, speaking English. She didn't speak English, so they would have me translate everything.
Okay, but you knowing how serious it was, you knew or had a feeling that she was gonna die?
Yeah. Really.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking. I'm trying to discover when this ambiguity, or a little bit more about the ambiguity around when your beliefs started to change. Do you feel that they started to change at the moment of death? Or can you trace back perhaps to experiences during the time you were taking care of her where you started maybe questioning?
Now that I think about it, yeah, maybe on the second time around, when we started, she got sent home the first time around, but she didn't have insurance, so they just said, you can't stay here. So we had to go home, and, seeing her without medication and how much pain she was in, that's when I started saying, holy shit, life sucks, life is bullshit, look at her, she's never done anything wrong, she's been through so much in life, and look how she's gonna end. And at least I knew that even with all the chemo in the world, she wouldn't make it. And she thought, yeah, I'm gonna be fine. Because she didn't know how
Okay, but you
much.
thought she was gonna die and you knew she was gonna die. But tell me about when you started to question, whether you admitted it or not, that there may be something on the other side.
I guess the last time I was in the hospital with her, the last period of.
So it
first
was
time
the
in
day she
hospital.
died?
Yeah, closer to the day she died.
Okay.
When I started realizing that she wasn't getting any better.
Okay, and what happened at that moment when you started having those thoughts that, oh, there might be an afterlife? How did it show up for you? What were your thoughts?
Well, around that time, that's when I started coming here to school.
Okay.
So it was kind of like, I don't want to waste my living life, even if there's an afterlife. I don't wanna waste the one that I'm having right now.
Okay, but what were your thoughts about an afterlife when you're in the hospital with her? What were the thoughts that started coming up when you knew that she was gonna die? Tell me about that.
Whenever I did think about it, because I would try to avoid that.
Of course. And avoidance causes anxiety. Why? What's avoidance? Past, present, or future? Past. You're trying to avoid past, you're trying to avoid future. Right, avoidance of future, exactly. And I'm saying you're trying to avoid something that you've experienced or something you don't want to experience. So there's ego there. That person is not in the present. Whatever it is, they're not at peace, so it causes anxiety. Okay? So avoidance, absolutely. So you were trying to avoid this thought because you knew that it was wrong and bow. Nice girls, nice Jehovah's Witness girls do not believe that. But the thought crept in. When the thought crept in, what happened? What was the thought?
The big what if there is something else?
What'd you do with that?
Oh,
Can you come here? Bring your chair and come here. And I want you to pay attention because you guys are going to do this with your client. Okay, we need to get to thoughts, but we need to get past thoughts to the emotion. Thoughts are erroneous. Write that in big, bold letters. There is an erroneous belief that the client is attached to. If you don't discover that erroneous belief, the client stays stuck there. The moment you could discover it, you're finding the break. You're finding the shattered glass and you've got an entrance in. The moment that they have incongruence, the moment that they have doubt about something, there is room for change. Thoughts are erroneous. These beliefs are erroneous. And with every erroneous thought and belief, there is what attached to it. Can you guess?
Thanks. What we're speaking of, right? Anxiety?
An
A feeling,
emotion.
Emotion, yeah.
Emotion. And we're going to find the emotion. As long as you can help the client release the emotion, you're helping them to have some relief.
Yeah.
So, you're faced with the possibility of a what if. What is that what if? What are your thoughts? What comes up?
That if there is an afterlife, then I'm sure she's here. And she just won't.
Okay, that you mean that she's here where?
Like with me, with her family, the one that were there when it all happened.
Okay, let's go a little deeper than your aunt being here. If there is a what if, talk to me about that. Go past your aunt. Is she the first person that ever dies? Okay, but you know death is a reality of life. Death exists. And you were taught exactly what as a child?
That's it. You die, you die.
Okay, so I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to tell me, how does it feel to perhaps think that there might be an afterlife and that every single person that has died just hasn't died, but might be lingering, that might be present with us?
I don't know, it's something that I
How does
can't,
it feel?
sort of confusing.
Okay, confusion, is that an emotion? Okay. Where do you feel the confusion? Uncross your legs, get relaxed, and just scan your body. There's no right or wrong answer. Where do you feel the confusion in your body? Can you hand me that chakra thing?
This one? It's kind of like here, like I feel like I'm seeing it, like in my head, I'm seeing it.
Okay,
I'm
but where do you
seeing
feel it?
Right here.
Okay, so you feel it in your chest
Yeah.
area? What do you feel? When I tell you confusion,